Well, hello! Welcome to the This is a Web Developer's Experience of Going Through Interviews series, where I want to share some fun stuff and maybe not so fun things that happened to me while going through interviews in the past. Hopefully, we could all have a good laugh at it and maybe learn a couple of things for the future. And don't forget to subscribe in order to get notifications when another episode drops. Episode number 2. Do you have any questions? If you have been already through some interviews or even had any interview before, chances are that you have heard this question before. Despite it being a very common question, many of us, myself included until my most recent round of interviews, are overlooking the importance of that question and the value that it can bring to the process of interviewing. Overlooking that one, to be honest, can be a deal breaker, not only for their side, but also on your side. We are used to seeing an interview as a way to showcase ourselves and to kind of convince the company or the employer that they need to hire us. But what we forget is that it's actually a two-directional conversation. It's not really just a Q&A, more of a, hey, I have these skills that I bring to the table. What can you give me in return?
But we don't have the money.
An interview is a great moment to ask questions that interest you, about topics that matter to you, and especially topics that are going to directly affect you and your future business relationship. It is also a great way to show what you're searching for in a company, what you're valuing, and what you're focusing on when making the choice if to work in one company or another. Now, I know that as a junior, this might sound very challenging. I remember when I was a junior, all I wanted was to just get myself out of the loop of job seeking and already get me an employment. But let me show you some topics and some questions that maybe at first don't strike you as ones that are valid or ones that are important to even ask, but they can serve maybe as a good starting point, make it less of an interview but more of a two-directional conversation. You know how usually when you start an interview or just a conversation, you would talk first about the weather because it's an icebreaker. You need to start breaking the ice, you need to start getting into the topics. You cannot just jump to it because, well, that's just not how it works. So here are some questions that you can start breaking the ice with. I call them core questions because they are about the core of the company. For example, how big is the team that you're gonna be working in? Who will be your manager? Maybe that person is already interviewing you, so that's a good heads up. Will you have a mentor, or is there a possibility to get one, especially as a junior? What are the working hours? What are the working conditions? For example, working from home, and maybe some other flexibility that the company has in place. Ask why they're searching for a new person, why this position is open. Is the company growing? Maybe the previous person left. Maybe it would be nice to know why the person left, although there is no guarantee that they're actually gonna tell you, but you can get the sense if maybe somebody was promoted or somebody just left the company. So if those things were already answered before or maybe covered by the interviewers before, then you could say something like, how long have you been searching for a person since that previous person left? How many candidates are there? And something in that direction. So you don't necessarily have to just like throw the ball, ask a question and get an answer back. Just create a conversation, a flowing conversation. After you ask about the core, or maybe they told you about the core, you can ask about the product. So what are you going to be working on? Are you going to maintain the code or create new products or maybe new projects that they have in mind? How many teams are working on this product that you're going to be working on? Which languages are there? The tech stack? Although that probably was already covered before, but in general, asking about the product is a good idea. For example, I was interviewing for a company that was working in the gaming field and they had one product. While I was being told about the product and explained what it's like, why is it there, what's the benefit of it, the amount of questions that could be asked around that product were already very limited. So I pivoted that conversation and asked if they are planning to extend their product to something more and what are the future plans for the company. You could also ask about the vision and the culture of the company, and actually I suggest you ask that even before that. If the company never encloses their vision or their culture about work, about time off and about basically being a human and how they position themselves in the world, then maybe that's a good thing to ask them. As a bonus point, you can ask something that deeply matters to you and something that you're gonna be bringing with yourself to the table. For example, for me, it is very important to know where does the company stand on the topic of women in tech and what do they do in order to minimize the gender gap. Now, I didn't bring that topic to the table during my first round of interviews as a junior because, frankly, it was frightening already enough. Although I wish I did because it was always very appreciated when I brought it up. The feedback I received when bringing this topic was always very positive and reassuring, to be honest, which was surprising to me. I probably was lucky with that because I can imagine that that's not the status quo in the field. Maybe it's political, maybe that's how people need to act, but the most important part for me was to bring my point across the table and to show that this topic matters to me and to kind of like let them know who they're gonna be dealing with. So, don't be afraid to ask questions. In fact, be afraid of not asking questions. Show your character, show your thoughts and vision, be prepared to ask a lot of questions, and remember that this interview goes both ways. I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know if you have had some controversial topics, although women in tech should not be a controversial topic, that you have brought to the table of an interview and the feedback that you have received. If you want to have more videos about this topic or me sharing about this topic and how the interviews went when I did, let me know in the comments, like and subscribe in order not to miss any further episode. And for now, I'm gonna wish you a good day, evening, night, wherever you are. Stay safe and see you in the next one. Bye!